Good afternoon, everybody. It's December 16, 2025, approximately noon here, and it's cold, not as cold as the other day. It was in the 20s this morning, but it's sunny, which is great. We haven't had a lot of sun lately. This beautiful original oil painting is entitled Octopus by Carla Smale, Smale. I'm going to discuss something I've never heard of before. And I stumbled upon it by just scrolling. You know how when you pull up somebody's website and you just start clicking on the headings and it takes you somewhere else and it takes you to another website? Well, that's what happened to me yesterday. I stumbled across a guy's website who claims he's targeted. Never heard of him before. Doesn't make a difference. There wasn't that much there about his targeting or anything, but he mentioned something, and then it took me to something else, and I clicked on all these links, and I got to Project Puppet, the architecture of human domination. And it was actually a projectpuppet.com/Project Puppet. I don't know who created the website. There wasn't a date on it or anything. So this is for educational purposes only, because we know how the military operates. It's all in secret. It's all 20, 30 years in advance of what we will be made to be aware of. And I'll give you an example. Back when I was growing up, and in the 60s, my mother used to like to watch like all the quote-unquote monster movies, King Kong, Godzilla. And she also liked all the E.T. movies and the experimental movies like Frankenstein. And then there was one called The Fantastic Voyage. Fantastic Voyage there was this doctor, scientist, whatever, that had something wrong within his body, and the only way that it could be operated on is by sending miniaturized people through his veins, through his arteries, to go in there and repair the damage while they were injected into his bloodstream after they went into this machine and miniaturized themselves. Now, we're going back to a long time ago. You can look it up online. I actually created a video about A Fantastic Voyage. And, it's, right now it's 2025. If this was going on, if this was told to us back in the 60s and the 70s, and they're allegedly 20 years advance and 30 years more advance, I mean, look at where we are today. Who knows what else they've got up their sleeves that are 20 years into the future from what we're aware of. So this Project Puppet, architecture of the human domination, let me explain to you what this is about. And think about what a puppet is. And a puppeteer, you've probably seen, like when you were a kid, the puppet shows. So you'd have a human with a little puppet on their hand, and they move their hand to make the puppet seem like it was speaking and talking while the human was speaking words into the voice of the puppet, trying to keep their lips unmovable. And then you've got the marionneteers, where normally you would see them in white gloves, and the rest of the body would be blackened out behind a cloak or a screen or whatever. And all you would see are these little white gloves, little hands with the white gloves, holding onto a marionette and manipulating them to walk and talk and do things. So this Project Puppet, suddenly I have a tickle in my throat. Project Puppet represents the culmination of decades of classified research into human consciousness and control. It is not a single device or a weapon, but an integrated system, a technological architecture designed for one purpose: to achieve total dominance over the human nervous system. Sound familiar to you, targeted people out there? How they're affecting your central nervous system? With trauma-based mind control, satanic ritual abuse to increase your cortisol and adrenaline. And again, this is for educational purposes only. I'm reading an article. This program marks the final frontier of warfare, where the human mind itself becomes the battlefield. Oh, where does that... It sounds like Dr. James Giordano reincarnated in this article. You know, the human mind is the battlefield. This sounds like so militaristic, doesn't it? The battlefield. Unlike traditional weapons that target the physical infrastructure, I can't stand that word, infrastructure, Project Puppet targets the very source of human autonomy, our thoughts, our emotions, and our biological functions. Yeah, so they can make you pee and poo and cough and sneeze anytime they want you to. And they can do it to your pets, too. For instance, I'll give you a for instance. Everybody who has ever owned a cat knows how fastidious cats are. They don't pee in their food. Well, these losers, they are either controlling the cats to pee in their food dish, or they are weaponizing whatever they have sprayed into the building to cause urine to form, which they have done at 52 Sutton Drive, Manalapan, New Jersey, a home I lived in for 30 years as the original owner. And you can see that on my testimony page, where they have literally poured a urine-like substance underneath my stove top. Yeah. It wasn't urine. It was a yellow substance. So what is Project Puppet? Project Puppet is a clandestine neuroweapons program operated by a coalition of intelligence agencies, military branches, and private contractors. Its operational tailbone lies within the NSA, you know, that National Security Agency, with key participation from the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. Well, I call them the criminals in the air. The Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA. The U.S. Space Force. Department of Defense Research Divisions. Black budget private contractors. Yeah. Black budget private contractors. The program's official classification level places it among the most protected secrets within the U.S. intelligence community, with access restricted to need-to-know basis, even within top-secret clearance holders. This is why you will never be able to FOIA request this information. So here we are, we're exposing the most protected secrets in the U.S. intelligence community. The core mission? Full spectrum neurological dominance. The objective of Project Puppet is to achieve what previous mind control programs could only theorize: complete remote control over human biological systems. This includes real-time neural monitoring, reading your thoughts and intentions, cognitive override, controlling your decisions and actions, emotional manipulation, including states of fear, compliance, or rage, biological regulation, controlling your sleep patterns, inducing pain, triggering physiological responses, perception management, altering sensory input, and creating artificial experiences. I wonder if that's what happened to Rob Reiner's son, who allegedly had alleged mental health conditions for a long time, addictive tendencies. He was placed on a multitude of pharmaceutical medications, and they're targeting my right ear right now. And those pharmaceutical drugs he wasn't taking consistently. Through news reports, it says that he would go on them and off them, and you cannot do that with many of these pharma drugs. You have to taper off of them gradually, sometimes over months and even years. You can't go on them this week and then decide I'm not going to take them today, and then, maybe next week I'll take them, because it will mess you up completely. It will control your behavior, your central nervous system, your thoughts. So right now, I feel bad for that whole family. Was it a satanic ritual sacrifice? Did they control that guy to be the fall guy through his pain meds? Maybe Rob Reiner's son was a targeted individual, right? They said that he went in and out of homelessness, drug rehab and stuff, and here he's got this big, rich, famous, multi-million-dollar family. So maybe they allowed Rob Reiner to achieve his success and sacrificed his son. And in the end, all of them went kaput. And by the way, for all of the astrologers out there, you know what happens with Algol, right? I believe I have to look it up again because I haven't been studying for a while. 25 degrees of Taurus is Algol. And it involves the cutting of the throat. So anybody, astrologers out there who's going to look into this sacrifice, you please look up 25 Taurus and see what was going on the day that this happened in all of the perpetrators, all of the victims. I'm going to call them victims. All of the victims' birth charts, transits, progressions, solar returns, and the latest eclipses, the upcoming one. So this is what they do. The system transforms human beings into what operatives, the psychopaths, call biological assets. Individuals who can be monitored, influenced, and controlled remotely without their knowledge or consent. Was Rob Reiner's son a biological asset? Was he controlled remotely without his knowledge or consent? Sort of like the guy on the train who slit the throat of that beautiful blonde woman. And the names are escaping me right now. But this seems to be a pattern. It seems to be a pattern. Right? Oh, what about Charlie Kirk? He gets shot in the neck? What the hell's going on with the neck? The technological ecosystem, Project Puppet, integrates multiple advanced technologies into a seamless control system. Remote neural monitoring, which many of us are familiar with as targeted people, which is RNM for short. The function is that it decodes electromagnetic emissions from the brain in real time. The capability, it reads your thoughts, memories, visual imagery, and emotional states. And this is particularly alarming because your visual imagery, your memories, your thoughts, etc., this is intellectual property. This is how we create. The range is global via satellite and ground-based systems. The purpose, total information awareness and consciousness mapping. They don't want to expand our consciousness. They want us trapped here in their hellhole. Number 2, synthetic telepathy, which is V2K. The function, it uses modulated electromagnetic fields to bypass the auditory systems. The capabilities is that it projects voices, sounds, and commands directly into conscious awareness. The technology is based on the microwave auditory effect, which we know as the Frey effect, F-R-E-Y. And the purpose? Psychological operations, psyops, gaslighting, and thought implantation. They want to bypass. They want to go into your subconscious also. Because whatever you think about all day long is manifested more readily in reality. And actually, even reading this is disturbing to me. I'd rather be reading something else. I'd rather be reading something fluffy like The Mason of Fuckery, The Girl Born on Friday the 13th by Shonda L. Day. And then, number 3, there's directed energy weapons DEW, D-E-W. The function is precision electromagnetic beams, targeting biological systems. Oh, and I'm going to upload some photos of what directed energy weapons do to your physical body, okay? I took some photos of my legs last night, so you can see what they do. Capability, it induces pain, sleep deprivation, muscle spasms. And if you're getting muscle spasms, you need more magnesium. Eat more bananas, and potassium and magnesium. That's what you need more of. Organ-specific distress. The delivery is via satellite-based and mobile terrestrial platforms. You hear that? Satellite-based, mobile, terrestrial platforms. And that could also include the inhumane terrain teams that trespass your property and trigger all the motion lights, and then your cameras put little square boxes around their invisible cloaking. The purpose? Physical compliance, punishment. Directed energy weapons are for punishment and physiological breakdown. Like, punishment? Really? Who are you guys to punish an adult, another person, when you guys, you manipulators, your controllers, your torturers, are committing the most felonious crimes in the history of this country? Number 4, the quantum AI neural networks. The function is advanced artificial intelligence analyzing neural patterns. They want to analyze the way your brain patterns, the neurons, how they fire. The capability, they want to predict your behavior. They want to optimize their control strategies and adapt to resistance. So, like people like you and me that are like, F you guys, I'm going to say what I want, do what I want, whatever. You little control freaks, go control your own stuff. So they're trying to take these neural networks and adapt them to resistance. Like, as we resist, they want to adapt their networks to interfere with your resistance. These are sick people. The scope is mass population monitoring and individual, get this, highlight these 3 words, individual targeting algorithms. Individual targeting algorithms. The purpose is predictive manipulation and optimize control protocols. So they want to predict, right? They're getting into the psychic business here, right? Just with facial recognition technology, which is an epic fail. Satellite neural grid, number 5. The function, space-based monitoring and delivery system. So those hums that you hear in the sky, those planes and copters overhead, you're not imagining it. It really is happening, and they are monitoring you with a delivery system. The capability is 24/7 global coverage, bioresonance signature tracking. The integration is they want to link all Project Puppet systems into a unified architecture. The purpose? Persistent surveillance and intervention capability. Now, I'm going to say all the surveillance technology is extremely harmful to the environment, animals, plants, bees, sea life, humans, trees, everything. So another thing that they really like doing, they want to look through your eyes. They want to breach the visual cortex. One of the most disturbing capabilities involves real-time visual cortex monitoring by decoding neural signals from the brains of visual processing centers. And Project Puppet operators, these psychopaths, Project Puppet operators, view the world through the target's eyes as if watching a live video feed. They reconstruct your dreams and visual memories with high fidelity. They monitor reading material and environmental surroundings in real time. They create composite visual hallucinations indistinguishable from reality. And the reason they do all of this too is because if you report that this is happening to you, they will provide you a unique diagnosis called schizophrenia. Okay? And then they will medicate you into submission to control you further. So please, do not report these things to the police department or your psychiatrist. Just don't do it. Don't share this information unless it's with another targeted person. A bona fide targeted person. This technology effectively turns the human visual system into a biological surveillance camera, eliminating any remaining notion of private experience. And this is what they've done to my kittens. This is why they harm the left eye. They're implanting tiny cameras into the kitten's eyes, knowing that even if I take these animals with me, and I think I've decided that the animals whose eyes have been damaged will stay here. That when they damage the eyes of the animals, not all of them, they're implanting these tiny little cameras. And that's why some of them have died. The targeting protocols and applications, Project Puppet's targeting follows a systemic protocol. The primary target categories. Now, when I say categories, these are the types of people that are targeted for these applications. Innovators and inventors for intellectual property harvesting, like my father. Journalists and activists for dissent suppression, like Romola D. Whistleblowers and truth tellers for retaliation example, like Karen Stewart from retired NSA. Political figures for influence and control. How about John Forbes Nash, Princeton professor, mathematical genius? The book, The Beautiful Mind, was written about him, alleging that he had schizophrenia. He was not schizophrenic, folks. He really was being targeted by the government. He really was seeing little stupid men wearing red ties to harass him. But they needed to take him out. I guess they would call him a political figure. However, or maybe he was considered to be an innovator and inventor. How about research scientists should be up here? And then random civilians for experimentation and system testing. And as I discussed in my last video about the different types of targeted people, only, for the most part, people placed on the terror screening database, non-investigative subjects on the watch list, will experience these kinds of protocols, these covert experimentations. All the other targeted people, if you defected from the Amish or the Mormonism, you're not, for the most part, you will not be a government experiment. So that's where the discernment needs to be placed in the targeting community. There are different types of targeted people. Some are targeted as a result of coming from a wealthy family. They're very controlling. They want to control who you marry, who you date, where you live. They want to control your money, your assets and stuff. But generally, those people are not on a watch list. They're not a true targeted individual in the sense of what we discuss for the most part. So now those are the categories of targets. Innovators, inventors, journalists, activists, whistleblowers, and truth tellers for retaliation, an example. Political figures, random civilians. And then the operational applications are, this is the goal. Intellectual property theft, direct extraction of ideas and inventions. They're going into your brain, into your creative processes, and stealing your ideas and inventions. Behavioral influence, shaping your decisions and actions remotely. Character assassination, driving targets to apparent mental breakdown. And I could see how that could happen because these nutsos, they are depraved. And when you are in an environment of very sick individuals, it affects you mentally. It affects you emotionally. People need to be surrounded with like-minded people, targeted or not, who are of the same mindset, who want to achieve things in life, who are spiritual, who want to ascend, who want to create. We're here on this earth to create and shine a light. So there's a character assassination, driving targets to apparent mental breakdown. Experimentation, testing new protocols and system upgrades. Oh, and I'll show you how they can cut your skin remotely through your clothing without ever being next to you. And not only is it through your clothing, but it's without damaging your clothing. They can cut right into your body. Assassination, the slow kill methods using physiological stress induction. And they can do this on a daily basis, particularly while you're sleeping. The evolutionary lineage of this Project Puppet represents the synthesis of numerous black programs spanning over 70 years. So we'll do a quick synopsis here. MK Ultra was in the 50s to the 70s, chemical and trauma-based mind control. Project Artichoke, Bluebird, 1950s, behavior modification experiments. RHICEDOM, the 60s and 80s, electronic mind control systems. Stargate project in the 70s and 90s, remote viewing and psychic warfare. The Montauk project in the 1980s, frequency-based reality manipulation. Soulcatcher, 1990s to the 2000s, consciousness digitization research. In the 2000s, silent talk, brain-to-brain communication technology. And yes, and Dr. James Giordano talks all about this control feature. Each of these predecessor programs contributed crucial research that enabled the development of Project Puppet's comprehensive control architecture. So what are the global implications? Let me just take a sip here because my throat's getting dry and scratchy. The existence of Project Puppet represents the end of human privacy. No thought, memory, or experience remains private. And this kind of reminds me of that psychopath Noah Harari. You know, this little weenie boy that he is. And he is a little weenie boy, I'll tell you. My intuition just tells me he's a little weenie boy. He looks like a little weenie boy. And he says that it's the ends. There is no privacy. The end, the end, the ends. You know, he talks about that every time he's interviewed. And you can see the interview is like looking upon him horrified. The death of autonomy. Individuals will become subject to remote override. Weaponized consciousness. The human mind becomes a platform for warfare. Totalitarian potential. Unprecedented capability for population control. And this is horrific. Species level transformation. The very nature of human experience altered forever. And this is probably why they want to clone all the people, because you know what? In the future, when they realize that what they have done is a horror show, they may have to reverse what they have done. And that's why they're going to take everybody's DNA so they can recreate all of us good people all over again with your tax dollars. So in conclusion here, this is an invisible war. We need to wake people up to what is going on here with the Project Puppet. Visualize what a puppet is, a puppeteer, a puppet master, a ventriloquist. It represents the most significant development in the history of human conflict, the silent, invisible war for control of human consciousness itself. This is not merely a surveillance program. It is an occupation of the internal landscape of human experience. The program operates in the shadows. Its effects are designed to be mistaken for mental illness. Its technology is hidden behind layers of classified information and disinformation, and its impact is real. It's documented by victims, whistleblowers, and the government's own patents. Awareness is the first weapon against control. Understanding Project Puppets is not about embracing conspiracy theories. This is about recognizing the documented technological capabilities and their implications for human freedom. The mind may be the final battlefield, according to James Giordano and psychopaths like Noah Harari, but it remains a source of our liberation. By exposing these systems, we take the first step in reclaiming our neurological sovereignty. And I have a list of the patents. I'm not going to read through them, but when I have time, I will cut and paste the patents and then a copy of the link to this video on the community page under posts. I look forward to some intellectual comments. And by the way, I have figured out through watching some other videos about the bots that are leaving comments. If you leave a comment under a video that does not pertain to the video, I will summarily delete it. Everybody makes mistakes sometimes, but I will delete it. If you're going to leave a political comment naming the names of presidents under a video that's unrelated to that, it will be deleted. Okay? And I've said it before, do not leave URL links, even to other YouTube videos, in the comments section. Email them to me privately, or wait until Saturday during the live stream and you can post them in the live chat for everybody to see. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. Welcome newcomers, and thank you all the subscribers, and thank you for sharing this information and getting the message out there. I really appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys soon.